So moving back towards our question and the question that we studied. So for the first issue we identified was this one, this specific issue. Current marketing director is appointed into this role and that a new marketing director is to be recruited. The main issue was that the current director, if he is hired as the current, if the current marketing director is hired as the chairman of the company, this is an issue for the company, right? Because under the code of corporate governance, we have studied that any past executive director is not allowed to run the company, to become a chairman of the company. They are not allowed to become not even the non-executive director of the company, let alone becoming a chairman of the company. No, that is not allowed at all. So coming back towards our answer, our first step which we had to identify in our answers was, first of all, we have to explain in our own words from the scenario, the issue. We will have to explain it in our own words. So explaining it in our own words, the question would be, the answer would be, the marketing director is being selected as the new chairman of the company by the nomination committee, as the old chairman will retire this financial year end. So this is my identification done. Now if I come towards the next part, within the next part we had to do what? Explain that if the issue is not corrected, what would happen adverse for the company. So now in our own words, according to the CCG, we will have to explain what bad things are going to happen for the company, what adverse things are going to happen for the company if this issue is not resolved or if this issue is continued. So let's discuss it first of all. What bad things are going to happen for the company, what adverse things are going to happen for the company if he is hired? The thing is that he is currently a marketing director, or in other words, he is currently an executive director of the company. And being a past executive director, if he is hired as a non-executive director for the company, he would still be seen as dependent upon the company. Why? Because even after becoming a non-executive director, who would he support the most? His friends or his opponents? Obviously, before today, he was an executive director. His opponents were the non-executive director, the people he had to report to. So wouldn't you think that he would still try to encourage, he would still try to take side with the executive directors of the company, the CEO, the finance director, the manufacturing director, the warehouse director, who are his friends? He would try to take their side within the board as well, right? Within being a non-executive director, in the nomination committee, if he is there, in the remuneration committee, if he is selected there, within the audit committee, if he is selected there, he would try to take their side. His decisions would be biased towards them, that he has to take their side. So in essence, obviously we can't explain everything within the exam as well. For 6 marks exam, for 6 marks questions, how much time do you have to resolve it, to solve it within the exam? You multiply it by 1.8 minutes. So for this specific question, you would have around 10 minutes to solve it. You can't take more than 10 minutes to solve this question. This means you are giving it more time than the actual benefit that you are going to receive from this question. For 6 marks at maximum level, you should only give 10 minutes to this question. So how would we explain this issue? What adverse thing is going to happen for the company? In our own words, we will say, if the marketing director is made the new chairman of the company, then the board as a whole would not be seen as independent from the company, as the marketing director would still try to take sides with his old friends who are the executive directors, and hence making the whole non-executive directors being shown as dependent upon the company. For the shareholders, the most adverse thing that would happen to this board would be that the shareholders would believe that all of the board is now dependent on the company, because even if one person is dependent out of the non-executive directors, then that plus one rule that we have studied for the non-executive director, that wouldn't work anymore. Because if you, even if you have just one person that is taking sides with the executive director, then the executive directors would vote for something, and this specific non-executive director would also vote with the executive directors, and hence the board overall would become dependent upon the company. They would not be seen as being independent. Now when we come to the recommendation, what have I written within my answer sheet? What have I written as, how do you write your answers for the recommendation as well? I have written, you have to explain in your own words. Do not use the words of the CCG. You have to explain in your own words what should be done now to correct the issue according to the CCG. So at the back end of your mind, you will always have CCG. What does the CCG say? And on the front end, you will explain it in your own words that what has to be done now. So according to the CCG, we know that any past executive director cannot be hired as a non-executive director for the company. Hence, we will state that here. Hence, this marketing director should not be hired as a non-executive director, let alone become a chairman within the company. Another person should be hired. Now, a recommendation is where you have to explain every aspect. Like, if not this, then what will we do? You also explain that. So, you will also explain that the nomination committee should hire someone else outside from the company who is independent of the company, and should hire them as a non-executive director, and then a chairman should be selected from within those non-executive directors. This is the recommendation that will be given. The CCG, sorry, so the CCG states that any past executive director cannot become a non-executive director for the company, and hence the current marketing director, should not be hired as the new chairman. Rather, now this is the part, this is the actual recommendation that we are giving. Rather, a new person should be hired outside from the company, who is completely independent of the company, independent of the company, and should be hired as a non-executive director, and then out of the non-executive directors, a new chairman should be selected for succession of the current chairman. That's it. That is a proper answer now, a proper thing that the company's non-executive directors should do because of the chairman who is resigning at the moment. SUCCSSION. So let me correct my spelling mistakes first of all. Succession, executive, non-executive, from director, non-executive, company, and we're done. Because this is the sheet that I will share to you. Now, let's move towards the next deficiency. Now, what was the next deficiency? The next deficiency was the non-executive directors are all members of the audit committee. This one. The non-executive directors are all the members of the audit committee and highly experienced in the industry in which Petra Corporation operates. Before joining Petra, they were all previously involved in sales or purchasing roles. The deficiency here was that according to the CCG, within the audit committee, there must be someone who is an expert who is a financial expert. Whereas I don't see anyone here who is a financial expert. So this is our deficiency number 2. So first of all, again, as per the question, as per the way we answer the question, first we will have to explain the issue in our own words. Let's explain that first of all. So the first point was to explain the issue in our own words. All the current non-executive directors within the audit committee. Wait a second. The non-executive directors within the audit committee are experts only within sales or purchases. Now, this is the issue. In the second step, I will explain what is adverse in this issue. Now, I will explain that there must be a financial expert, and if there is no financial expert, then according to the CCG, the requirements of the audit committee, that there would be no, if there is no financial expert, how will the audit committee ensure that the remaining non-executive directors also have financial awareness? Only a financial expert within the audit committee can make this sure that the remaining non-executive directors also are financially aware of the company. So if there is no financial expert, this wouldn't be possible. So I will state, as there is no financial expert within the audit committee, this would mean that the responsibility of the audit committee would, for providing financial awareness of the company to the remaining NEDs, would not be properly fulfilled. Hence, the decisions made by the remaining NEDs for the company would also be incomplete, as they have an incomplete picture of the company. Only a financial expert within the audit committee can provide this information to the remaining non-executive directors. And if there is no financial expert, then this is an issue for the company, because the remaining non-executive directors, when they make their decisions, they will not have all the financial image of the company, and this would be an adverse impact for the company as well. Now, coming towards the recommendation. Now, this is the final time I'm coming towards the explaining from the clean notes how to give a recommendation. When we give a recommendation, we have to explain in our own words what would be done now to correct the issue according to the CCG. Again, at the back of my mind, I will always have CCG. And using that thing in the back of my mind, what does CCG say about it? I will explain the answer. The recommendation will be given in my own words. So here, what does the CCG say about it? The CCG says that within the audit committee, there must always be a financial expert. Now, don't say within the exam that someone from the current non-executive directors who is a financial expert should be given a position within the audit committee, because in the question it clearly says that all of the non-executive directors were previously experienced in either sales or purchasing. They have no non-executive director who is a financial expert, so they will have to hire someone new. If in the answer you write from any other non-executive director who is a financial expert, he should be kept within the audit committee, you would not be given any kind of marks. You have to let the examiner know that they don't have any non-executive director who is a financial expert. So they will have to hire one specifically for the audit committee. So now coming towards our answer, we will write down first the CCG. As per the CCG, the audit committee must contain a non-executive director who is a financial expert. As Petra corporations, and as all of Petra corporations directors, non-executive directors, NEDs, are either expert in sales or purchases, this means that there is no NED available who is a financial expert. Hence, they will have to hire another non-executive director who is a financial expert and keep him in the audit committee so that the audit committee can provide full financial image and awareness to all the non-executive directors of the of Petra Corporation, of PETRA Petra Corporation. This is a proper answer now. This is a proper answer to the question where you properly explain. Now, for example, if any student would have not identified this, that they don't have any kind of non-executive directors who is a financial expert, and he would have straightforward written down that they should out of the remaining non-executive directors, they should keep someone who is a financial expert, the examiner would have given no marks for this specific portion, for the recommendation portion. Obviously, he would have given 1 marks for all of this, the identification and explanation of the deficiency. He would have given you 1 marks for this, but no marks would have been given for the recommendation. Again, as I've repeated it, the deficiency portion combined with the recommendation portion, both of these have 2 marks. 1 marks for the deficiency that you have identified, properly explained in 2 portions, and then 1 point for the recommendation that you have given. For every single deficiency that is properly done for these 3 things, you get 2 marks. So 1 marks for this and 1 marks for the recommendation that you have given. But if your recommendation is wrong, not properly given, you wouldn't get 1 marks for it. Again, you would lose marks within the exam. You can't lose marks that are easily available within the exam. CCG is very easy. It is one of the easiest things within the syllabus. So please don't mess it up within the exam. It is a very easy portion. So now let's move towards the third thing. The third thing, the remuneration for the non-executive directors is in the form of annual bonuses based on the profit growth over the period year. So this is the issue. And why is this an issue? Because we have discussed this again and again, that the independent directors, the non-executive directors must be kept independent of the company. And if their profit, if their salaries are linked in any way with the company's performance, this would mean that they are seen as dependent upon the company. Their decisions would be based for themselves to increase their income, rather not, and they would not be thinking about about the shareholders. So because of this, they would be seen as dependent upon the company. This is the issue. So coming back towards our answer, let's write the answer now. So the issue, first let's try to explain the issue in our own words. There are 2 points within deficiency, explaining the issue in your own words and then explaining what would be the adverse impact for the company if this continues to happen. So first point, explaining the issue within our own words. The NEDs are paid bonuses which are linked with the profits of the company. This is the issue that we have identified. Simple, straightforward, write it down. Now, what would be the adverse impact if this continues? If this is continued, then the non-executive directors would not be seen as independent from the company and its performance, and hence they would make decisions to increase their income, whereas, let me scroll down, whereas their main goal should be to be a representative of the shareholders in the company and make decisions for them. not for themselves. Now we have explained, now because we have explained the adverse thing that will happen for the company if this continues, let's move towards the recommendation. And how did we write down the recommendation? We have to explain in our own words what is the proper thing to do in this case, keeping in back of our mind the CCG. Now, what does the CCG say about it? First, let's discuss that. Let's imagine that in the exam, how would you do it? First of all, you would close your eyes and sit down and relax your mind and say, what does the CCG say about this case? And on the back of your mind, you will have the answer. The CCG says that the non-executive directors should be kept independent of the company. How are they kept independent of the company? So, how are they kept independent? They are paid wages based upon the time that they give to the company, which is usually an hourly wage, which also ensures that they are independent of the company. So, okay, I will explain this here first of all. Then what would be the recommendation? Then I will give a recommendation that the non-executive directors should not be paid anymore based upon the profits of the company. Rather, a wage should be given to them which is directly linked with the amount of time they give to the company. Okay, this is a proper answer that I can write down. Now let's go towards the answer and try to write down the answer. How would I write it down? I would say the CCG states that the non-executive directors should be independent of the company, and that they should be independent of the performance of the company, and that they should be paid in accordance to the time that they provide for the company. Now, as I've written this down, this is not a recommendation. This is what CCG says. I'll have to give a recommendation based upon what issue I've identified. Always remember, this is a generic answer. The examiner is not going to give you marks for this. The examiner, in my clean notes, I've also written down, please note that the examiner will not give scores for generic answers, or in other words, rote, learnt and then wrote. This is something that you would have learned from the CCG, and the examiner would identify that this is something that can be learned. Where is the recommendation? This is not the recommendation. The recommendation is, now what should be done in this case? You will have to explain it here as well. What should be done within this case? So you will state that hence, now this is the recommendation. Hence, the non-executive directors should not be paid any more bonuses linked to the profits of Petra Corporation. Always take the name of the company. Don't say of the company. Always state the name. Profits of the Petra Corporation, and they should be paid hourly based upon the time they provide to the company, so that they are independent from the performance of the company. That's it. That is my answer for 6 marks. And once you have become a student who has done a lot of practice from the kit, as I've repeated it again and again, and also within the lecture, also within the orientation session, when I said this, that the more practice you do, the faster you will become in drafting your answers. Obviously, with me, it is going to take a lot of time. Why? Because I am explaining everything to you and then writing it down. So it takes double the time that it should take to solve an answer. For this, it took us 20 minutes to write down in the lecture. But within the exam, at max, it should take you how much time? It should only take you 10 minutes. Let me give you the exact time that it should take you. So for example, within the exam, how much time would you have to solve the answer? 6 multiplied by 1.8. This means you will have 10.8 minutes to solve this question. Read it and solve it as well. You will have only 10.8 minutes to do this question. That's it. Now we are done with this question. Let me pause the recording first of all. Now, the next question within your kit regarding Code of Corporate Governance is Delhi Corporation, the question number 223. It can be a separate number within your kit. Don't worry about it. Just look for Delhi Corporation within the index and try to search that question. And Delhi Corporation part number D is linked to corporate governance. Now, here you also have to identify three corporate governance deficiencies, and the scenario that is linked with corporate governance is the last scenario, the last two paragraphs within the question, these two paragraphs after the requirement number C. Now, I'm not going to do this question for you because the reason is there are only two technical questions available within your kit for Code of Corporate Governance. And if I do this question, it will be wasted for you. I don't want to waste this question for you at all. Because there are only two questions available. One question is the one, the Petra Corporation is the one which I've already done within the lecture, and Delhi Corporation is something that you should try it on your own. Again, keep things in your mind, the things to keep in your mind. Again, number one, once you try to do the question, please do it on Word. Please do it on Word file. Don't try to just simply imagine, okay, this is the answer that I would write. You will fail this portion of the exam very miserably if you try to imagine. Don't read the answers from the kit at all, because your answers are not going to match. First thing, always remember the two things which I always repeat, which will help you pass the audit exam. Number one, do questions. As many questions from the Kaplan kit as possible. And number two, send them to me. Send them to me. So send it to me upon WhatsApp. Do it in the Word file. Read the question again. Solve it in the same way that I've solved the question for you within this class as well. Solve it on a Word file, and the answer should always be in this format. If the answer is not in this format, believe me or not, the moment you send me the question and I check that the answer is not in this format, I'll send it back to you and I'll say, I'm not going to check it out. First, do the question the way I've asked you to do it within the clean notes. Within these notes, the way I've guided you to do the questions, please do them. First of all, write this part, then come towards the recommendation and explain the recommendation in your own words. And do not write a generic recommendation as well. So, from the Kaplan kit, Delhi Corporation is the name of the question. Part number D is what you have to do. This is basically a type of homework. Now, at this age, if you believe that I should give you homeworks, then obviously you have not grown up. It's not an age to give you homework. You have to do these questions on your own as well. So the question again, three corporate governance deficiencies. Again, you will have to identify the deficiencies in 2 points, paragraph number 1, paragraph number 2, and the recommendation is always 1 or 2 paragraphs. No matter how you want to explain it, it is your choice how you want to do it. But these are the 2 paragraphs that are linked with it. Read them, identify the three deficiencies, write down the answer without looking at the kit, and then send the question to me so that I can check it and let you know if there is anything wrong in your answer, and then you can correct it as well. Please ensure you do this question and share it with me so that I can check it out. Thank you so much. Take care. If there is any question that you want to ask from me regarding this lecture, please don't hesitate to ask it from me upon WhatsApp, and I'll answer it for you. Take care. Tata and bye bye.